Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the final week of the regular season of UKITT. Everything to play for this week. Every team wants a playoff place. Some teams vying for a round one bye in playoffs. And this is the culmination of 7 weeks of battles from all of our players.
7 weeks of battle, it's not something that's easy to do, I feel, because like when you prepare for these regionals, right, it's just all in one go. But like having to keep battling every week and out, like just having to remember and plan it, it's such a different mental game as well, where you really have to try to step up as well every week, where you're like, all right, no, I can't just bring the same team again, I need to focus up. Let's try something here.
Yeah, it's a tough one because it always feels like if you bring the same team every week, your opponent's going to counter you. But then sometimes your opponents think, "Oh, he's not going to bring the same team again, so I won't bother." In
Yeah.
World Cup last year, I brought the same team 3 weeks in a row, won all three, and then presumed that my opponent would do something about the team I'd won all three matches with, and they brought a team that would have completely gotten destroyed by the team that I'd used three times in a row. So, and I brought something different and
Honestly,
lost.
sometimes it just works. Honestly,
Sometimes it just works.
sometimes it just works. But yeah, these kind of leagues, I personally really like them. It's just um like as I said, it is a lot. It's a lot of 7 weeks, and you have, of course, your team to motivate yourself with. So to try and like give the best that you can do as well, it's kind of fun to do. I always like playing with people in team formats like this because it's just more fun to me, because instead of the solo queue,
Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot more community around it, and I think with leagues like this as well, you get a lot of storylines coming out, which you don't necessarily get in other formats or in individual matches or anything like that. So, for example, the the Twin Leaf
Bless you.
Typhlosions. Thank you.
Yeah.
Twin Leaf Typhlosions from this season started out in dead last. I think we're last for the first few weeks, uh,
Hmm.
and have pulled themselves back up to third place and have grabbed themselves a playoff spot from there. So
Honestly, just impressive.
yeah, and seeing that play out over the course of 7 weeks, it has a different feel to it than like people make comeback runs at regionals and tournaments and stuff like that all the time. But being able to see a team of people band together and kind of bring themselves back over the course of kind of 3-4 weeks of tournament play, as it feels like there's a bit more behind it, because
Yeah.
there's 8 people playing every week. So well, eight, six people playing every week. Um,
Still a lot of people.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's like when you're able to still, even if you have like your first down weeks, and being able to pull yourself back up there, it's just honestly impressive, and you should be proud of that fact as well. If you were able to achieve something like that, because there's many times where people feel really demotivated after losing like 2 weeks, but just being able to like what's it, I forget the word, to continue, like to continue on really with your plan, with your VGC, with your plays and stuff, and just come back on top, must be one of the greatest feelings ever.
that's one of the benefits of having a team around you as well. Is sometimes you'll have an off week. You've then got that team to kind of help you out with building teams, analyzing matches, just giving you support for your next games. Um, Yeah,
Yeah.
speaking of the teams here, let's have a look at how the teams are lining up at the moment, kind of towards the end of this final week. A lot of the table is pretty locked in at this point. The Paldea Palafins comfortably at the top at number one here. Spiritombs are 2 points behind and have not yet finished this week, so they could, in theory, tie them on points, but game difference is very heavily in probably Palafin's favour. So the Palafins are guaranteed to take first place here. So that's the first bye in the playoffs goes to the Paldea Palafins, who have managed to go the entire season without losing a week, which is very impressive. There's a lot of variance in team leagues like this, where you've got 6 people playing on each team every week, and you've got 7 weeks of play. Being consistent enough to not lose a single week is very impressive.
that that is quite impressive, so to say. It's just, yeah, wow. I like, for me, coming to this document and like seeing all the these players have what they have done as well. The culmination right now, being on top, well deserved, really.
Yeah. And the flip side of that, interestingly, we've got the Great Galar Mine Number 2 Mining Society, which is a longer name than I'd use. But the Mining Society have a chance to make playoffs without winning a week, interestingly, because they have consistently been tying a lot of weeks. So with they've wrapped up their last week now with 5 ties out of 7 matches. That puts them 1 point ahead of the Sinnoh Shamans, who are yet to finish this week. So there's a bit of contention for the last playoff slot there. The rest of it's all pretty much wrapped up here. Twin Leaf Typhlosions in 3rd place. Spikemouth Spiritombs get the 2nd bye in the playoff place. They're currently sat on 9 points with the result from this week still to go in, but Twin Leaf Typhlosions have finished their last week, so there's no chance of anyone overtaking them from underneath. So our top 2 is going to be the Palafins and the Spiritombs, and then Typhlosions, Butterfrees, and Patacakes are all guaranteed, I believe, at this point.
Yes,
to be the remaining slots there, and then it's between the Shamans and the Mining Society for that last playoff spot. So that's the fixture to look out for this week. In terms of, oh, sorry, carry on.
No. I've been like, because I haven't been watching them as close as you, of course. So like, from the Sinnoh and Great Galar Mine, really, what has been one of the things that's been standing out to you? I don't know if you've witnessed any battles or like any players have been really doing well.
You put me on the spot here.
Oh, sorry. I'm very sorry. I've been just wondering as well, really, because being so close to the end here now, only like this close, the last week really mattering still to be playoffs is quite something fun to see as well. That little tiny point race to have, really.
Yeah. I don't think I actually saw any games between the two of them. But their records are very different, which is interesting. So, like the Shamans have won 1, drawn 2, lost 3, whereas the Galar Mining Society have not won a week, as I said. They've drawn 5 and lost 2. So, if the Shamans make playoffs, they'll have done it over the Mining Society with more losses guaranteed. So, I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic at the bottom of the table, I think. Like I said, that's definitely the match to look out for. Interestingly as well. Interestingly as well.
Discord delay.
Yeah, every single new team to UKITT this season has made it to playoffs, which is a fun stat. And one new team is guaranteed the bye to the semi-finals. So I believe Spiritombs are defending a final spot from last year, and the Padaya Palafins, a new team, have topped the table. So a lot of kind of up and coming teams, a lot of upcoming talent. It's been interesting to see how a lot of newer players have developed. I think a lot of people got into UKITT over lockdown and have developed VGC through UKITT. So it's very cool to see players who kind of started with UKITT, or who, like, there are a lot of players who this is their first kind of competitive tournament style event who have been doing well. So, for example, Poke Replay, who is one of the players we will be watching today. This is his first season in UKITT, and I mean he played some VGC beforehand, but I think someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he's not done a huge amount of competitive VGC in the past. But in his first season of UKITT, he is playing this week. He's on a 5-1 record, so if he wins this one, he will be at 6-1 and tied for 2nd on the individual player standings this season.
Oh, that's quite impressive. Yeah, I've only seen Poke Replay since this year, since Scarlet and Violet myself, because trying to immerse myself more in the community and such. But I have been able to see like that they are quite a good player, and like hearing their record as well of being 5-1 right now, possibly going 6-1 as well. That just showcases to me like I was right into following them on Twitter as well. Just one of those things. It's fun to see these players, these newer players, come up and just being able to play the game so well. It's I feel the major thing that has been positive for the community has been like open team lists as well, which has been way easier for people to understand really what is happening and what makes a certain Pokemon good, and how to invest bulk. Like a lot of these community things, like VGC Paste and Victory Road, just being able to share teams and a lot of information that we have been given. So the new players are really able to come up really strong this season, because we have had players even win like regionals for their first regional as well, which is just mind baffling, really.
Justin Tanks just built different.
Yeah,
That's the
Tang gang.
takeaway from that one.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I think there has been a lot of. I mean, I started competing on the circuit last year. This year has felt a lot more like a community. I think partially that's just because the number of players at events has gone up, but also, like you said, things like open team sheets mean that it's not always just the people with the biggest networks who are winning events. It makes it more accessible for players who don't necessarily have as much like intimate game knowledge as other people do. I've been playing this franchise since I was like 5 or something. So just over the course of playing casually, I've kind of learned what Pokemon learn, what the basic stat blocks are, that kind of stuff. And so open team sheets kind of balances it out for people who haven't been playing for long enough to just accumulate that knowledge, which I think is a very interesting point.
Yeah, it's just to me as well. I really liked open team sheets myself, because I've always been someone that's just like 252 investment and everything earlier in the method, like. But now, really learning that, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't put everything in speed. Like I can cut down a bit of speed. I don't need everything. It's just, I'm just happy to see the VGC community growing and thriving really like this. Older players still being able to perform really well, while new players also just proving time and time again that they're really strong as well.
That's one thing I love about VGC is on the day, anyone can beat anyone. No matter how old or new you are, because there's no like tech skill going into the game. Everyone's got the same field of Pokemon to work with. Someone who's won 8 regionals could rock up and get destroyed round 1, day 1 by someone who you've never heard of before.
No, absolutely. It's just the upset factor is something that is also just fun to see, where you're suddenly a player doing super well and you're like, who is this guy? Have we not seen him? It's not possible that we haven't even seen them anywhere at a local or anything. But it's these online tournaments that have been doing a lot as well. I feel where like during the Sword of Shield area, where there's just so much ways to now practice a bit better, like the community just being more open, and it's easier accessible, really.
Yeah. Or you do the Emilio Forbes strategy, which is after winning the most recent regional, when asked how he practiced, he just went, oh, just loads of ladder games.
Yeah. Ladder is a different beast for me. I'm really terrible at ladder. I'm generally I'm probably one of the worst people. If you want ladder advice, I ain't got it.
Right. Well, let's start jumping into some games. So the first one we have lined up is going to be Arch 11 Heretic versus Poke Replay, who we mentioned earlier. And that is going to be... I've forgotten what teams people are in. Bear with me 1 second. It is... Okay, this is Twin Leaf Typhlosions versus Galam Mining Society. So, like I said earlier, this match doesn't really count for a huge amount. It's currently 4-1 to the Twin Leaf Typhlosions in this fixture. So this particular fixture is already done, but Arch11 Heretic potentially playing for Galar Mining Society's game differential, which maybe comes into play if the Shamans get a draw this week, for example. And like I said, Poke Replay is playing for his own personal spot at the top of the standings, or near the top of the standings. So even though there's not a huge amount in terms of placement riding on this for certainly one of the players, still a lot to play for. So it's going to be interesting. And there's also, I wonder sometimes in these final weeks when, it's a match that doesn't necessarily make much difference, if people are going to bring out some spicy techs.
Oh, that's true. It's the final week, so you're always like wanna kind of one up the end of the week. You want to have that hype replay, really, like bring some kind of secret sauce, like just showcasing, like, hey, I could have brought this any week, but I'm bringing it right now,
Yeah. Right, well, let's see if they have brought any spice. Let's jump over to our battles.
Yeah.
So we are
So
good. Oh,
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm gonna let you.
Okay, we have got Arch11 Heretic on our left here, the near side versus Poke Replay. On Arch's side, we have got Murkrow, Great Tusk, Iron Bundle, Fluttermane, Sizzle, and Azumarill up against Poke Replay's Chien-Pao, another Iron Bundle. We've got Amoonguss, Arcanine, Dragonite, and Annihilate.
All right. Looking first at this team, I'm looking forward to seeing Murkrow yet again. Really, like a Pokemon that has been used a lot of Regulation One, and now, well, Regulation A, I should say right now.
Reg A Series
Yeah, Reg
1.
A, Reg A Series One. As now being kind of back. Like I've seen a lot of people use this as well. Again, next to Golden Go, but now really with the Great Task, really being able to prove useful because it has things like haste, so you don't get that intimidate that keeps going on to your Great Tusk either. And yeah, just Fluttermane, Iron Bundle, it's one of those great things that's always been working, right?
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, that Murkrow there as well has commonly started running Sunny Day. So you see that next to things like Great Tusk and Fluttermane to activate photosynthesis. So as a manual sunset, you'll often see like Scarf Great Tusk next to Murkrow. So you can set up Sunny Day and just start pressing photosynthesis boosted earthquakes. We've also got another relatively standard team on the other side. We've got that classic Chien-Pao Dragonite pairing.
Yeah.
You're going fast, you're hitting things hard. And then that's backed up by Annihilate and Moongus. We don't see a mouse hold next to the Annihilate, but Annihilate can work as a standalone, especially when it's got that redirection, that intimidate support next to it. And interestingly, we've got two teams that I think would be considered relatively standard, but there's only one Pokemon in common between the two teams.
Oh yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. Only the Iron Bundle being here, just to be playing both sides right now. As we will get into the game as well. Let's see what these players lead off with as well. We have the Fluttermane from and Fluttermane and the Scissor on the one side, and on the other end we have Dragonite and probably, oh no, never mind, it is the Annihilate. I thought it was a Chien-Pao, but it's the Annihilate there.
Yeah, well, there's a lot on Archer's team that I think threatens potential Chien-Pao lead here. If you look at the Azumarill, if it's Scarf Great Tusk, for example, you don't want to take a close combat there. Sizzle's obviously got that Bullet Punch. You've got Speed Control and Iron Bundle. So I think it makes sense to not bring the Chien-Pao as a lead here. You can always bring it as in the back if you want to boost up your Dragonite. This lead still leading double Fairy weakness is maybe going to force a Terastallization from Poke Replay turn one, that or a switch. It's be interesting to see if we maybe get an Arcanine coming in, maybe like a Terra Fire on the Annihilate to try and tank a hit from Fluttermane.
Yeah, I feel like Terra Fire from the Annihilate is like the most logical thing to happen, and then Dragonite may be switching out depending if it's like multi-scale, because like multi-scale can be broken with Bullet Punch into like Moonblast, and that Dragonite might even go down at that point. So like, you're a bit of a precarious situation where maybe a switch is needed here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, some calls to make on turn one, because like you said, you can knock out the Dragonite here, but if that switched into an Arcanine, Bullet Punch Moonblast is not doing very much.
Yeah,
So let's see
exactly.
how this plays out.
Ooh, it's Terra Water. Okay, Dazzling Gleam just going in. No Bullet Punch from the Scissor coming out. Rage Fist just into the Fluttermane, just KOing that because you're, of course, boosted right now. As Iron Head coming out into the Scissor just for a bit of damage as the Scissor flinches. So, not really, no idea what the Scissor went for there.
I'd presume the Iron Head there was meant to go into the Fluttermane in case the Annihilate somehow didn't KO it.
Yeah.
But if you Poke Replay, you take the flinch there. Sizzle maybe going for like a U-turn or something just to reposition. Or maybe even like a pounce to drop Dragonite speed. I don't really know what else you're going for on a Sizzle. Potentially even Sword Stance, actually, if it's set up. But we see the Iron Bundle come in here, which is now... It's threatening the Dragonite with Freeze Dry and Icy Wind, but you don't want Icy Wind in front of the Annihilate. But Annihilate now also getting threatened by this super effective Freeze Dry. So Iron Bundle in a pretty solid offensive position here.
Yeah, exactly. It's as she said, like that's the thing with Annihilate. A lot of the times where if you have that fear for Fluttermane, you go for that Terra Fire most of the time, and then most of the time the partners with Fluttermane, like for example Palafin or even Iron Bundle right now, can threaten that Annihilate yet again, like all right, you've got the Flutter Mane, but now you have to deal with this Iron Bundle, which can hit you super effectively.
Yeah, interesting. So it's a Pokemon gone down on Arch's side on turn 1, but there's a commitment to the Terra type on Poke Replays, and also that Iron Bundle gets a bit of positioning. So maybe not as one-sided to start as you'd think.
Yeah, exactly. As we are gonna get into turn 2, as we have the booster energy from the Iron Bundle activate as well, raising its speed. We have Dragonite switching out for its own Iron Bundle there, so potentially protect from the Annihilate. As the Frieza comes out, not getting a KO, even with the critical hit. Their Rage Fist into the Scissor, not killing the Scissor.
What? U-turn to polish off the Annihilate. That was a much lower damage turn than I thought. Crit Freeze Dry, not taking out Annihilate from 70%, and then Rage Fist with 2 stacks, not taking out Scizor from 80%.
I just didn't expect it. I just did not expect Rage Fist. I didn't expect Rage Fist not to KO because you had a 150 base power ghost move at that point, and like I always have, when I think of Scizor, I always think of Mega Scizor, a lot of, so I'm like, always think of Mega Scizor, but I always forget. I always think like regular Scizor is way weaker, but like Scizor is still showcasing how strong it is right now.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot now though for Heretic, because you don't really want your Great Tusk out in front of an Iron Bundle. If it is a Choice Scarf, like they often are on these teams next to Murkrow, the Iron Bundle's still going to outspeed you, and you're dead to one hit of Hydro Pump, for example. So you maybe want to try and drop the opposing Iron Bundle's speed here, but then obviously the Iron Bundle could do the same back to you. Start getting into speed tie territories. It's a slightly weird spot.
Yeah, now they have to see like it may potentially protect from one side to bait out the Icy Wind, or the switch up from Great Tusk into the Scissor to try and prevent the Icy Wind drop. But like, it's a lot of mind games going on going into turn 3. Well, 4, I believe. But yeah, Chimpao coming in right now, so lowering all the defense on all Pokemon. As Great Tusk actually just going for its Terra type, while we have the protect from the Iron Bundle, Ice Wind going into Chimpao, lowering its speed, and then Rock Slide coming out from the Great Tusk, doing quite a bit of damage, but not enough for a KO, meaning Chimpao is able to go for an attack, going for that Sacred Sword, still super effectively with that, even with the Terra Steel there.
Very nice catching the Terra Steel there, I guess. Making the read that Arch 11 Heretic would want to make some kind of defensive play on the Great Tusk there. Because, like I said, you don't really want to leave a Great Tusk in as is against an Iron Bundle. Both of its stab moves are super effective on it. So by baiting out that Terra Steel there, you've now put yourself in a position where you haven't committed anything with your Iron Bundle. You've still got it at full speed, and it's still threatening this Great Tusk. This Great Tusk we've seen is not Choice Scarf, because you see the Protect come out here, which means that even after one Icy Wind, this Iron Bundle on Poke Replay side is still going to be faster than the Great Tusk, which is something to consider.
Yeah, probably wanting to maybe chip it down for if it's a potential sash or something on this Great Tusk, because yeah, that's something that's been run quite a bit as well. As we go into the next one, as we see the Great Tusk go for that Protect there, trying to go for the defensive play here, as the Chimpao goes for a Sucker Punch, not working right now. Icy Wind missing Chimpao, but hitting the opposing Iron Bundle there, as the Icy Wind from Iron Bundle coming out and doing a bit of damage on Iron Bundle. So just a lot of speed dropping ahead.
Yeah, trading speed drops there that turn. This now it does come down to a bit of a speed tie potentially, because if Arch11 Heretic's Iron Bundle goes first and gets off an Icy Wind, which it did this turn, we don't know if it's a speed tie, if maybe Poke Replay is not running max speed. But either way, if Arch's Iron Bundle goes first and gets the Icy Wind off, Great Tusk will now outspeed the Iron Bundle. Maybe will outspeed the Iron Bundle. And so now there's a situation where, how much are you willing to bank on that coin flip? Do you think that's your best odds of winning? Do you think maybe you can try and maneuver a defensive switch? Or do you just gamble? Because sometimes you've got to identify that my best play is to go for 50-50.
Yeah, personally, I would probably go for the 50-50 myself. I'm a gambling man myself. It's terrible, but like sometimes when I don't see another option, I try to go for it. So let's see what the option is from Archie's side, as we see the Protect from the Iron Bundle coming out on Poke Replay side. Sucker Punch not KOing the Great Tusk just yet, as the Icy Wind coming out, missing the Chimpao yet again. Unfortunately, Rock Slide coming out, but does manage to get KO onto that Chimpao at least.
Yeah, so the Chimmychar goes down here, but that damage on Great Tusk, it didn't KO it, but it puts it in range now of an extreme speed from Dragonite, which
Yeah.
means this Great Tusk is not neutralized because you do still have to worry about the threat that it poses. Potentially, you need to be scared of a Protect on Great Tusk and then an Iron Bundle Freeze Dry taking out your Dragonite, which then frees the Great Tusk up again. But then you end up in a situation where maybe if Poke Replay goes for an Icy Wind there, you slow down the Iron Bundle, and then the Iron Bundle on Poke Replay side is still faster than the Great Tusk, and it's still faster than the other Iron Bundle.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of things to consider here. Maybe a call needs to be made on Poke Replay side to try and get through this situation.
Yeah, it seems hard right now being in this final position here as we go into the next turn. With the Dragonite now coming in, as you said, like possibly just being able to go for an extreme speed as you see the extreme speed, but going into Iron Bundle instead of the Great Tusk and a freeze dry, just making sure that the Iron Bundle goes down so the Dragonite might not potentially kill. Close combat onto the Dragonite, not doing all that much damage because, of course, it is still that dragon flying type right now. Had the possibility of going for that Terra type, possibly Terra normal there, but just being able to go for that new. Oh no, wait! It already Terra.
No, we'd already
earlier.
seen. Yeah, we'd seen the
Yes.
Terra Water.
Oh.
So Arch making the correct play that Poke Replay would go after the Iron Bundle there, but instead of going for like a hard punish on the opposing Iron Bundle with a close combat, goes for a close combat into Dragonite, which doesn't really do very much. Maybe Arch just forgot that the Terra was already gone or something and predicted a Terra normal, for example.
Misclicks can happen.
Misclicks can happen. But that now puts Arch in a very, very bad spot, I think, here.
Yeah, because both the Scissor and the Great Tusk are quite low as we have probably one of our final turns here coming in. So Scissor being low, Great Tusk being low, not really showcasing a lot of potentially extreme speed, just killing the Scissor. And now Great Tusk, the only one on the field, and you can just take that down with an Icy Wind there. So, yeah.
Yeah, that was a pin there at the end game from Poke Replay because both Pokemon get outsped by Extreme Speed and, well, I guess Icy Wind. I think Icy Wind, not actually your best play there because there is a chance that misses.
That's true. That's actually true, yeah.
I disagree with the Icy Wind there. I'm going to go ahead and say that I think Freeze Dry would kill a -1 Great Tusk from that range, even with the Terra Steel.
I'm pretty sure.
But yeah, the pin there was set up so that you had the extreme speed locking down the Scissor to get around the priority bullet punch, and then the Iron Bundle just naturally outspeeds the Great Tusk.
I'm trying to think about like if the Great Tusk went for close combat into that Iron Bundle, then it would have only been the Dragonite onto the field, and then it would have been Scissor and the Great Tusk versus that Dragonite. Would have probably been a better position, of course.
It would have been a better position, but I don't think either of those two Pokemon could one-shot the Dragonite. So you still potentially have to make a read on Protect there to try and guess which slot the Dragonite's targeting down. Because I don't think a Rock Slide, even single target, would take out Dragonite from that range. And I don't know what Scissor's going to use to take out a Dragon Flying type.
Yeah.
So maybe you just even if the close combat goes into Iron Bundle there, I think you still have to make a call on which Pokemon goes for Protect and which Pokemon the Dragonite targets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's exactly as you said. It wasn't fully decided because of that one turn. But yeah, we can see what happens in this game. Maybe potentially they bring out a new kind of plan here. I feel like the Iron Bundles were doing great there. Great Tusk was doing quite a bit of damage, but I felt a bit lackluster about the Scissor personally.
Yeah, I don't think the Scissor did very much here, and I think the only thing it really threatens on this team is the Gen Power. Potentially, if it's safety goggles, it could be good into the Amoonguss, but I think into like Arcanine obviously has a really strong matchup into it. It doesn't do that much damage into Dragonite. It really doesn't want to face down and Annihilate because it just doesn't have enough damage to warrant hitting it. So I think maybe leaving the Scissor behind is probably the play here. And I think maybe just being a bit more careful with that Fluttermane on turn 1, because losing Fluttermane is very strong in this matchup. It's immune to extreme speed. There are 3 fairy weaknesses on Poke Replay's side, plus Iron Bundle gets one shot by Moonblast, for example. So I think maybe just being a little bit more careful with that Fluttermane on Archer's side. And I think I agree that Scissor probably not the bring for this one.
Probably leave Scissor on the bench there. But it's as she said, like Fluttermane can be one of those Pokemon that is sometimes better to keep in the back, but like there's these moments where Fluttermane is just the lead and it's just like putting out so much damage that it's just able to just overwhelm the opponent as well. So like, yeah, it's one of the situations where you're like, okay, am I bringing it out now? Maybe keep it later. But yeah, a bit playing it around safer with the Flutter Mane would probably be desired here as we get into game 2.
Okay, we see Chenpao and Annihilate lead here. So a slight switch up from Poker Replay, and we see Iron Bundle and Azumarill. So no Scizor on the lead from Arch this time, and also we see the Iron Bundle coming out in that lead position. But now it feels like this Annihilate is in a good spot, because with that Terra Water, you can maybe try and risk a freeze dry into it, but then if you get that incorrect and they don't Terra, then you've just given them a free rage for stack for no real damage. And Azumarill is very slow in this field position at the moment, to the point where I think even with an Icy Wind, there's a chance it won't outspeed the Annihilate. So again, a very precarious position for both. I think the early turns are going to be very, very important in this game to determine kind of who can get early momentum with knockouts.
Yeah, it's exactly as you said. Like we know that the Iron Bundle is Quark Drive as well. It has potential to protect. Icy Wind really a bit off the table since you don't want to activate that Defiant on the Annihilate there. And even then, Azumarill is still superbly slow. You have the nice thing right now with Chenpao being on the field that is Azumarill can do a bit more damage thanks to its sort of ruin, but it's definitely going to be able to stay on the field for at least one turn. But now, it's as you said, like, do you proceed to turn 1 Terra or do you just scout out really right now?
It also becomes a case of who do you target down with your Pokemon if you're Arch here, because like you said, that if Chenpao stays in a Play Rough, for example, it can do a lot of damage to an Annihilate here, even if it goes for a Terastallization. But if the Chenpao switches out into an Arcanine, for example, or Annihilate goes for Terastallization, you're not doing that much damage, and you're just feeding it a free Rage Fist stack. So it's a tricky spot. Let's see how these players approach this.
Yeah, we have the Quark Drive, of course, activate. As we do have the instant Terra from the Annihilate. Annihilate seeing itself in a good position. Protect from the Iron Bundle. Sacred Sword into the Iron Bundle. Good protect there. As Rage Fist not doing actually decent damage to the Azumarill thanks to that Chenpao. Play Rough, wow, doing quite a bit of damage. And now you are in that position where the Iron Bundle is just able to kill the Annihilate from this range with a Freeze Dry.
Yeah, so very, very aggressive play there from Poker Replay, but I don't think that Sacred Sword would have picked up Iron Bundle. So I think even if the Iron Bundle doesn't protect there, I don't know how much value you actually get out of that turn. If you're Poker Replay there, just because you're kind of splitting your damage in a way that doesn't threaten any immediate KOs, which means that something like this Azumarill, which, as you said, with that Chenpao on the field, is doing a lot of damage to Annihilate. That Play Rough hit after the Terastallization for 75% of Annihilate's health.
Yeah, damn. Like I'm honestly impressed how much that did actually to Annihilate. Annihilate being seen as one of those Pokemon that's so hard to damage if you don't hit it super effectively. But now that Azumarill just waltzing through it, really.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this turn plays out. I think someone pointed out in chat that maybe this is Annihilate is Assault Vest based on how much damage it took from that freeze dry in game 1, and I think they're probably correct, because we've not seen it go for any setup moves or protect or anything. We've only seen it go for attacking moves, plus it took nothing from a crit freeze dry from Iron Bundle. So if that is an Assault Vest Annihilate, there's now a position here where Poké Replay is forced to either switch that slot out or sack the Annihilate. So potentially there's a play here where Arch doubles into that slot with a freeze dry and a hit from Azumarill to just say, okay, if you leave it in, it's dead to the freeze dry, and I get a liquidation on Chenpao. And if you switch it out, then something is coming in on a move it doesn't want to take.
Yeah, exactly. I don't see a lot of Pokemon that I would like to take combination from like Play Rough plus Freeze Dry on in the Annihilate slot there. So let's see what Poké Replay decides to do. It is actually the Ice Wind coming out. So lowering the speed on both Chenpao and the Annihilate. Sacred Sword, not KOing the Iron Bundle, as you said. Play Rough now being fast with the Azumarill. Luckily,
that's such a risky turn.
Wow, that. I gotta say, I did not expect that Icy Wind. I'll be real, I would not have clicked that.
I mean, I understand what Arch was going for there, because getting that speed drop on Chenpao, if there's like a Flutter Mane in the back end, for example, becomes very valuable, because it also breaks that Focus Sash. And if you're confident your Azumarill is going to be faster than Annihilate, then you can kind of go for that.
Yeah.
But even if you're confident your Azumarill is faster than Annihilate, if you click in Play Rough there, you've still got to hit the Play Rough, and you've still got to
That's
hit an Icy
true.
Wind. I think
always forget
Liquidation
that Play Rough
honestly
can
might
miss.
have killed from that range. So it might have been safer to go for, just based on how much damage the Play Rough did. But that feels like a very risky turn. It worked out for Arch there, but
Yeah.
if something had not quite got his way there, if that Play Rough had missed, for example, then you have lost your Azumarill for not very much.
Yeah. Now we do like the focus action on Chimmychar is at least broken now. So you do have that possibility of just killing a Chimmychar right here with a Play Rough, if you don't miss, of course. That's the one thing. But Iron Bundle now being in as well, being able to threaten with a freeze right. Azumarill is quite bulky, but like I'm not sure what this Azumarill set is like. If this is an Assault Fest set or something.
It feels like Choice Band to me, just based on the damage.
Oh, that makes way more sense. I wasn't even thinking of that.
Because I can't remember what it was. It did something in game one that made me think it was Choice Band. Sorry, not game one. It wasn't here in game one. I think it was
just hear the Play Rough into the
turn
Annihilate.
one.
Really,
Sorry, I meant to say turn one. Yeah, I think just the damage on the Annihilate made me think it was Choice Band. I could be wrong. I don't know my Azu calcs.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, so that makes sense for the Azumarill one for a second Play Rough there as well.
Yeah.
But still risky then not wanting to miss there. So all right, let's see what this turn 3 brings us, because I'm quite interested to see what's gonna happen with now.
It brings us Iron Bundle speed ties. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we see that Sizzle has come to this game as well.
Okay.
So it gets some value here because it's a switch into ice moves, and also it threatens Chimmychar with Bullet Punch. So I guess we're both a little bit incorrect in that Sizzle does actually seem to have a fair bit of value in this particular board position. I still don't know if I like it as one of your 4 Pokemon that you bring to the match. We'll see how that plays out. But it is now threatening certainly the Chimmychar with a U-turn or a Bullet Punch. It's going to do, I think, reasonable damage to Iron Bundle. I don't think it's going to... it maybe do like kind of half or so with one hit, and you're still playing around Iron Bundle speed ties. So it's not a great position, I think, for Arch still. I think the Sizzle just isn't doing enough right off the bat to make it as threatening as maybe you'd want it to be.
The thing is, like, you're not like earlier you went for with the Champa Sucker Punch to like guarantee the Iron Bundle will go down, but now because the Scissor is on the field, you can go for that Sucker Punch. You get the Iron Bundle down, but that Scissor is bound to get something down as well, like with the Chimmychar. So it's like you put in a position, as we already kind of spoiled see, where the Chimmychar has to decide if it's gonna Sucker Punch or if it's gonna protect here. Like, but yeah, so it's a weird situation where I think like now speed ties are gonna be part of the game, definitely, where you have to decide. Yep, I'm going for this 50-50 right now. Good luck.
Yeah.
As we go into turn 4. Yep.
We see the Protector, and no Bullet Punch from Sizzle.
Okay.
And also no hit into the Iron Bundle here from Poke Replay.
Okay.
Maybe reading a Protect on that one. But, the close combat comes out. So that is... that's a very good turn for Arch Heretic there. That close combat cleanly knocking out the Iron Bundle on the opposing side, and the Iron Bundle on Heretic's side here, not getting a speed drop, which, I mean, it would be faster than Chimmychar anyway, so I don't know how relevant that is, but also, most crucially, staying alive, which means that if Chimmychar wants to go for a Sucker Punch to knock out the Iron Bundle here, the Sizzle's now got a free Bullet Punch into the Chimmychar, for example. That read there on that turn, a lot of mileage, I think, for Arch here. That puts him very firmly in the driver's seat. Let's see what the last Pokemon on Poke Replay side is.
Yeah, exactly. This what a play there, really, to make. It's like kind of a 50-50 there, as the Scissor does switch out to the Azumarill, as the Iron Bundle just goes for another Protect here. And now we have the ultimate combo of Chimmychar Dragonite, Extreme Speed, not KOing the Azumarill just yet. But yeah,
it's tricky. There's another pin here again with the Extreme Speed from Dragonite. With everything on such low health, all these priority moves on Poke Replay side make it very, very difficult for Arch Heretic to navigate around this. But we do see this back-end Flutter Mane, and we're going to see the Sizzle come back in here. So this is where that speed drop on Chimmychar becomes relevant. Because that Flutter Mane, if it's Choice Specs, for example, I I think there's a position here where this is something you maybe highlighted in game 1, where the Sizzle can bullet punch Dragonite just to break the multi-scale. Now, Choice Specs Dazzling Gleam is going to do a lot of damage.
I wonder what if because how much does extreme speed do to Zumarill 64 with Chimpao? I don't know if it's banned. I don't know my Dragonite extreme speed to a Zumarill calc there, but but I feel like a Zumarill is
feels
quite
like
bulky,
banded
right?
damage.
That
Like
feels like banded,
there's
right?
no stab on that as well.
Like I was about to say like that has to be banded, right? 64 is a
Yeah.
lot, certainly on an Azumarill. So yeah,
So that just means that as long as this Genpao goes down here, this Dragonite cannot touch Fluttermane in this endgame if it's locked into that extreme speed. So again, we'll have to see how this plays out. We see the extreme speed into Sizzle, no protect. And we see the Sucker Punch into Fluttermane. It just about hangs on. Bullet Punch to break the multi-scale on Dragonite if it has that. And then the Gleam comes out, double KO. That's going to be Choice Specs.
Yeah. That is
so
okay, now we have a lot of information about the teams now. But we know like what they're playing here. Wow.
You called the end of game 2 at the start of game 1 with that Bullet Punch to break the multi-scale.
Hey man, I just saw I used my third eye. It's one of those things where it's just wow, that was very well played. The Scissor, as you mentioned as well, was just was being able to be used quite well, especially in that position where you have 2 ice types on the field that mainly like to click like Ice Spinner or even their Icy Wind Sacred Sword, and you still have Sucker Punch and Sacred Sword and the Scissor, but the Scissor not going down for that because it has like decent bulk at least to have that. I'm honestly impressed that the Scissor was working there, so I'm happy to be proven wrong there.
I'd be interested to see if Arch makes any kind of adjustment in game 3 here in terms of speed control, because it felt like in both games there have been situations where it's been threatening to come down to Iron Bundle speed ties for a lot of these. So maybe we could see something where maybe Arch brings the Murkrow in and gets Tailwind up and tries to get a lot more aggressive with that, because with Tailwind up, that Fluttermane is outspeeding everything. And that in the last couple of games, we've not seen a Moongus or Arcanine, which are the 2 fairy resists on Poke Replay's team. So,
that's true.
So maybe Poke Replays goes, okay, well, my opponent brought a lot of physical attackers and a Fluttermane. I can bring my Arcanine, or I can bring my Amoonguss, which will wall out on a Azumarill, does pretty well into Sizzle. So it'll be interesting to see what the adjustments are from both players here.
Yeah, let's see what they bring out here, as we do have the Iron Bundle on Poke Replay side, as the Arcanine, as you mentioned, Arcanine finally coming in, also with an Intimidate, making sure that it can lure someone's attack, but it's the Iron Bundle and the Fluttermane lead, meaning this Intimidate not really working out there.
So this lead is interesting, I think, because Arch Heretic, I believe, is threatening KO on both Pokemon here. Specs Moonblast is definitely killing Iron Bundle. That thing is dead. If it stays in. And if it goes for an Icy Wind, it could come down to just how fast the Arcanine is. Because if Arcanine is faster than Fluttermane after an Icy Wind, then that maybe forces Arch to go for his own Icy Wind to try and slow down the Arcanine so you don't just get hit by Icy Wind Flare Blitz. But if the Arcanine's slower, then you go Icy Wind with your Iron Bundle from Poke Replays, and Fluttermane just outspeeds and KOs the Iron Bundle, and then you risk getting hit by a Hydro Pump. So
a lot. This is gonna come down to the speed tie yet again, or possibly just trying to outmaneuver here, really, because I feel like just a Specs Fluttermane is such a scary thing to try and switch into,
especially with so few fairy resists on the team. So unless Poke Replays has made a big adjustment and gone for Arcanine and the Moongus this game, it's very likely no fairy resist in the back behind that Iron Bundle. We see the Protect from Iron Bundle. Hydra comes out to Arcanine, connects. Reasonable damage, but not too much. And Shadow Ball into Arcanine. Another big call on the Protect there from Arch Heretic, but Fluttermane goes down turn 1.
And does the Arcanine now thanks to the recall damage. Well, I feel like Poke Replay has like one play always like Terra the Pokemon on the left into Terra Water and just do damage, really. And it's been doing well. Like you have gotten rid of the Fluttermane, which is really good, because as you mentioned, if they didn't bring any other fairy resists like the Amoonguss, this is still a decent position to have.
I wondered maybe if it might have been more sensible for Arch to go for a Moonblast there instead of a Shadow Ball, because if Arcanine doesn't terastallize, then if you hit it with a Hydro Pump, it's dead. It's gone
Yeah.
regardless. And then
Oh, that's
Moonblast,
a fair
if
point,
it
yeah.
does terastallize, is doing more damage. So Moonblast would have picked up a KO there, I'm pretty sure, because Shadow Ball's base power is a lot lower than Moonblast. It's 80 versus 95.
Yeah.
So
That's actually a good point, yeah.
it felt like Arch Heretic was kind of trying to commit to reading no terastallization, but you don't need to there if you click in Hydro Pump. And if Hydro Pump misses, then you're not carrying Arcanine with either move, and you lose your Fluttermane regardless. But I think that Fluttermane is just too valuable here to risk it going down on turn 1 for something that easy.
Yeah, a bit of a repeat on like game 1. Let's see what turn 2 will bring out here. Having that scissor now this time. It's back again.
And it is
as
the Amoonguss in the back end.
Okay.
So there was a Fairy Resist in the back. Okay.
Now I'm just going for the Terra Ice. Okay, sorry. Bullet Punch into the Amoonguss and just a Freeze Ray critical hit. This Freeze Ray has been critting quite a bit, but it is still that Terra Ice right now. So like still gonna do quite enough to kill an Amoonguss there, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like with the Terra that maybe didn't make much of a difference. And a very passive play from Poke Replays there, switching the one offensive threat on the team out, the one offensive threat on the field out into the Annihilate. Maybe scared of that close combat that we saw last game.
Yeah.
But now we're in a situation where Poke Replays, we've seen that they have burned their terastallization early again, which puts this in a situation where it can just try and lock down that Iron Bundle with close combat. And Annihilate, if it doesn't get hit by any attacks, is not doing much damage back to a Sizzle unless it's running maybe like a Fire Punch as a tech move.
Okay, that'd be fire. I would be very interested to see that because it is a Soul Fest, so like you can't run a coverage move like that. But yeah, the position right now, because you had to switch out your Iron Bundle as well, you lose your core drive, you lose your speed, and now Archie's just Iron Bundle is just faster. And
that's another important point there is, it's not a speed tie anymore, which is the one thing that we were worried about the first couple of games.
So we don't have to talk about these 50-50s anymore. This is now guaranteed. Archie is faster. Finally, we can see this with certainty as we get into turn 3.
We have one Iron Bundle, and there's the Hydro Pump miss. I don't think that would have killed Sizzle regardless, to be honest. And the close combat does pick up the Iron Bundle there. So a correct read from Poke Replays. I just don't think that Iron Bundle Hydro Pump would have done enough to make that into a KO. It's not that strong. So it's looking bad for it's looking bad for Poke Replays here. It's not over when there's an Annihilate. There's a way.
That's true. Absolutely, Annihilate is crazy sometimes. So like
because this Iron Bundle doesn't necessarily want to hit it and give it Rage Fist stacks. Maybe if it gets a bit of health back with Drain Punch or something, it can pull something out here. So we'll have to see how this plays out now. It's not looking good for Poke Replays, but it's not over.
Yeah, as we get into our next turn 4. Annihilate versus the world, really. Bullet Punch doing respectable amount of damage. This is still a Scissor. Icy Wind.
Icy Wind? Why are you clicking Icy Wind?
Defiant, so Dream Punch will
it's Azumarill in the back. That's what it is. It's Azumarill in the back.
You already know that the Azumarill is faster. Yes!
Yeah. There it is. Okay.
That's smart. Wow.
Bullet Punch and show me Liquidation. There you go. The sensible move. Not risking the miss there.
Not missing this. We ain't risking that. Wow, that was a very well played game there by Arch. Like really in control that game. Really knew what to do.
Yeah.
Even though the Fluttermane went down turn 1, just being able to pull back that rope that is the game just back to itself and just being able to pilot this quite expertly, really.
Yeah, and I think we both said after game 1, maybe the Sizzle's not the bring, but it ended up doing a lot of work there. The reveal of the close combat tech makes it a lot more threatening into a lot of what was on the opposing team. So yeah, very, very interesting set. Arch losing game 1, making a slight adjustment and bringing it back. And Poke Replay actually making a very interesting adjustment in game 3 there, where I kind of said at the end of game 2, didn't bring a Fairy Resist, and the Fluttermane kind of ran through him a little bit. And then he brought 2 Fairy Resists in the next game, and Fluttermane got polished off 1 KO and then said, right, that's me done. I'm out.
I'm good. I've done my job. You know, it's, wow. That, I, like, earlier you mentioned when we were looking at the teams that the Iron Bundles were the only Pokemon that we saw that they both had but they were brought every game because that speed control was so important. The ice winds, the ice wind and the speed tie trickery that was going on.
I hate Iron
Replay
Bundle
just
speed ties. I hate
yeah,
Iron Bundle speed ties so much.
it's not fun. Main reason I don't like to play Iron Bundle myself, and I'm like, I don't want to. Just give me a mon that survives. I can play around it. I don't want to risk speed
Yeah.
ties. That's the main thing. But like, well played, both of these players. Like Terra Water, turn 1 every turn for Poke Replay. Like,
Yeah.
and
He's got a strategy and he's sticking with it.
Hey, if it works, it works.
Yeah. Right. So that's gonna wrap up. Twin Leaf Typhlosions versus Galar Mining Society. Like we said, that particular game didn't have much of a sway on the outcome of that week. Still, despite Galar Mining Society bringing one game back, it's still 4-2 to the Twin Leaf Typhlosions. But I think Arch had a bit of a maybe not the season he'd want to. So getting a win on the board to finish it out, always a good feeling. That's the thing with team leagues like this. Even if you don't have a great individual season, sorry. You can still kind of you can give your best to every game and you can still make a difference here and there. Poke Replay didn't quite get the 6-1 record in the end, but still 5-2, very, very strong record for their first season in UKITT.
Yeah.
So our next game is going to be between
the Mimikyu and Callum, but the teams
I have to
check that myself as well.
Have I got the order wrong? No, it's NJB versus Gem next.
Oops. NGB versus Gem. My bad. That's me.
So we are looking at where have they gone? Okay, so this is Spikeless Spiritombs versus Postwick Patacakes. Now, both of these teams, Spiritombs are already guaranteed to be top 2, so they already have their playoff spot, and the Patacakes are already guaranteed that they will have their Spiritombs are already guaranteed they'll have a bye in playoffs, and Patacakes already guaranteed a playoff spot. So nothing to play for but pride here. But pride's a powerful motivator.
Yeah, exactly. Like, have you seen Avatar? Like, I'm just saying, man, that man went to the South Pole.
Current score is 3-2 to the Patacakes. So NJB for the Spiritombs currently fighting for a tie, and Gem for the Patacakes fighting to seal that victory for them. And again, looking at like I said, this tie doesn't make much of a difference for the individual for the teams, but for the individuals on the teams, kind of interesting. Gem, for example, I believe is currently at 2-3. So winning this one for her would give her the chance to break even in, again, I believe her first season of UKITT. So fighting for the pride of saying I didn't have a losing record.
Hey man, I can motivate a lot of people. That's what I go for regionals as well. I want to end positive. That's the minimum. That's the minimum.
Goal, especially like there are so many strong players in UKITT this year. I remember doing the draft stream and I'd get to we got to like the bottom end of the draft and I was like, why are there still these players this far down? So going even in and even 2-4 in a tournament with this much opposition is no mean feat. Definitely something to be proud of. So that's kind of actually I don't know what Darkrai's record is. 1 second, I'm pretty sure I saw it earlier. So I think Darkrai Darkrai's at 3-1 at the moment.
All right.
So been doing very well this season. I'm sure they will be looking to extend that to a 4-1 record.
It's always nice again a positive record, right?
Yeah, like I said, both players here just playing for their own personal record at this point. So let's jump in and see what these players have brought to this match now. Again, do we see some spice with nothing on the line?
Well, looking at the teams themselves, we already have like a bit of visual. There's one thing I want to mention. There's already two Pokemon that now they both run at least. So we might be expecting both of them again. So speed ties galore, you know. But
yeah,
I generally like this because I want to see Corviknight in action. Because I already see the Corviknight. I want to talk about it because Corviknight has been one of those Pokemon that I have been trying to put in teams, but where I always felt like it felt a bit lackluster for myself. But every time I see someone else play it against me, it's the greatest Pokemon ever. So I'm like kind of doubting like how to make this work really.
Yeah, it's one of those. There are a lot of Pokemon. I feel like when your opponent plays it, it's the best Pokemon in the game. When you play it, it's garbage and can't do anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, we see
sometimes it feels like that.
Darkrai on our left here. If I don't think we have this up on stream. If we can get the teams up on stream so that people can see what we're talking about.
That's fine. Our
Um,
faces are beautiful as is.
They are wonderful. However, it's very hard to see the teams if you just look at it. There we go.
Yeah.
So we've got NJB on the left here. It's the last week, and so NJB's decided I'm going to bring the absolute spice and go for the most standard 6 Pokemon in the game at the moment. Except I'll change the Tinglu for
spice.
I'll change the Tinglu for a King Gambit. And then Gem with something a little more interesting, like you said, the Corviknight here, and a Serena, which is not something we've really seen at all this season. We've seen Corviknight here and there. We've seen Bonk Up sets, we've seen Tailwind sets. We've not seen Serena anywhere. So I think that's going to be an interesting one to look out for. I don't know if the matchup's that favorable for Serena here. It can block Sucker Punches and Fake Outs, which is nice. Obviously, it's immune to Amoonguss' Spore. But it doesn't like that Intimidate from Gyarados, and it really, really doesn't like that Chiyu.
Yeah, Serena is one of those Pokemon that's really, when it can be brought in against something that really can deal with it well. Like, for example, if we look back at the previous team where you have Chimmychar Dragonite, where Dragonite really loves clicking that extreme speed button. Serena just being with the block that is always like a threat you have to keep in the back of your mind. And Serena just an amazing, like we have seen it work quite well in previous iterations of the game in Sword and Shield, where it was just able to block so many things thanks to its queenly majesty. So I'm very well. I want to see it work as well here because it has high jump kick. I don't believe it still has grassy glide, but like it still has.
Doesn't have grassy glide and doesn't have triple axle either, I believe.
Triple axle gone as well. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So
it's Isle of Armor shooter moves.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the Serena is gonna bring actually, if it's gonna be brought at all, because it can it can still high jump kick the King Gambit, which is what as effective, you know. But like the Chiyu being there is just one of those things where you're like, you have to fear that, especially when you're playing Corviknight as well. Chiyu is looking like a Pokemon that will be brought quite a bit actually. If I would play this matchup time and time again, I think I would bring my Chiyu time and time again as well.
Yeah, into Corviknight Serena, definitely a solid bring there. The Garchomp as well could be interesting on this matchup because it naturally outspeeds Chiyu if it's running max speed, or if the Chiyu's not running max speed. And that Earthquake hits 3 of these 6 Pokemon super effectively. So next to something like Corviknight here, you can really threaten the Chiyu and the Iron Hands that you'd want to bring if you're NJB to deal with that Corviknight. So I think that could be an interesting lead. I think those two cover each other very well. That's going to be a pairing that I think is going to be tricky for NJB to get around. But let's see what their approach is.
Okay, and as the game starts, we have the Gyarados next to the King Gambit, just instant intimidate next to King Gambit, always being able to threaten anything really on the field every time. As on Jazz Hands, that's a good name. As the Iron Hands and the Garchomp actually coming out, and we do have it intimidate not working immediately onto the guys onto the Garchomp. So that Earthquake that you mentioned earlier really gonna be quite effective, seemingly.
Yeah, it's going to be scary into that King Gambit. Obviously, you don't want to Earthquake next to your own own Iron Hands here.
Preferably not.
Yeah. I think this is a good lead for Gem here, though, because you've, again, got a bit of a pin here where the King Gambit doesn't want to take a big ground-type move from Garchomp. Maybe it's a Stomping Tantrum. I know a lot of Garchomp at the moment have been running double ground. And the Gyarados is scared of that Thunder Punch from the Iron Hands. So I think Gem on the front foot here, but NJB's team is a lot more defensive. You can probably get away with pivoting into like an Amoonguss if you got that in the back here. It does very well into these two.
Yeah.
So we'll see how this plays out.
Amoonguss is just very good to have. Also, the attack drop will affect the Iron Hands itself. But you kind of are in the position where you're like, you can choose to go for the Gyarados or for the King Gambit with a Dream Punch. But you can't switch both into the Amoonguss. even though
Mm.
one of them can possibly protect potentially as well. There's a lot of options here to say,
There
so
are many
let's just get
options.
into that turn one, really.
And we're going to see Fluttermane comes in. So I wanted to get around a Drain Punch there. A ground type move into Fluttermane here, though, is going to hurt from Garchomp. But we see the Sword Stance coming out. This Garchomp wants to play aggressive. Waterfall, taking a chunk out of Garchomp. And we see the Wild Charge taking out that Gyarados, which gets rid of the Intimidate threat for the rest of the game. But now that Fluttermane's in a really good offensive position. And NJB has a free switch in here to bring in his...
Preferably, it's
King Gambit.
Okay, I'm actually quite surprised that it's King Gambit it's brought in.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what else there is.
Yeah,
I mean, I guess if it's like Terra Flying or something, then it could be useful. It does also give you the threat of Sucker Punch here. Because this Fluttermane, the obvious move here is you want to go for a Fairy type move into the Garchomp, right? But if Garchomp is Terra Fire, for example, then having that King Gambit Sucker Punch here to try and pin that Garchomp alongside the Moonblast could be very, very valuable. Because there's nothing else on NJB's team that is guaranteed to outspeed a Garchomp, right? So this just allows you to threaten 2 attacks before the Garchomp can move.
Yeah, so it is just one of those positions where that's the nice thing about like terrestrialization, where you have the option like, okay, I might be in a bad position, but what if I change my type right real quick? But it's just
him with the Uno reverse.
Yeah, because you waterfalled the Garchomp at least, a Shadow Ball with now a booster energy from this Fluttermane, I feel like it might be close to being range too. Certainly, if the King Gambit doubles up into it, of course. But you have to consider the Iron Hand still there, and like you can protect the Garchomp in that regard, and just go for a Volt Switch or really anything really with the Iron Hand, so potentially switch out to something else to have a bit more of a favorable match. But there's just so many things to talk about when you're in these
have
turns.
To see,
really.
Yeah, exactly. It's the problem with Showdown. You could pause it. So you're like, okay, well, there's 508 options we can go for here. Let's talk about all of them in depth.
So let's analyze that. Let's go into that turn. As actually a switch up from the Garchomp into the Corviknight and a Terra Grass from the Fluttermane and a Terra Terra Fairy from the Fluttermane and a Terra Grass from the Iron Hands. Iron Hands being able to survive quite comfortably now, decently with the Terra. That's a gleam.
King Gambit lives that.
Wow. And King Gambit,
that Intimidate doing a lot of work.
Yeah, that Gyarados still like in his grave, he still being down, but still like, hey, I got you.
Pointing and laughing.
It's just.
But interesting to see that the Garchomp, even with the Sword Stance boost, Gem saying, right, this thing's under way too much pressure here. I can't safely leave it in. I'd rather sacrifice my Sword Stance boost than sacrifice my Garchomp. Mm-hmm. And the result of that is Corviknight comes in and takes 14%. And now this Iron Hands again is in a very strong position because with that Terra and presumably an Assault Vest, I don't know if you'll KO it even with a double up here because its special defense is massive because the Assault Vest, its physical defense is huge because it's an Iron Hands. But also now this Corviknight is threatening maybe a Tailwind, for example, which could put the Fluttermane really on the back foot against the Garchomp, who can then come in and outspeed it. The Corviknight will be able to outspeed it and hit it with Iron Head. So I think a really, really good play there from Gem to identify, okay, I don't need this Sword Stance up. I can keep my Garchomp as a threat late game. I'd rather just get my Corviknight in, get some better defensive positioning, and then go from there.
Honestly, very well played. Yeah, because like we were talking about the Terra possibilities on the Garchomp, but just going for a completely other option just to be able to throw their opponent off, and now being put in position that might be more beneficial in the later game as we get into the next turn.
We're going to see the Moonblast come out. Does a lot of damage into the Iron Hand's big special attack drop. Now that Volt Switch is not going to do as much.
Big special attack drop, really.
And we
Dream Punch, a little bit of damage, but like it's the King Gambit is down at least.
And the big thing that turn is we see the Tailwind come out from the Corviknight. I think that's really the key here because with this Chiyu Fluttermane back end, you really need speed control. I think for this to be as threatening as you want it to be, especially with a Garchomp in the back threatening an Earthquake. So now it becomes a case to think of, can NJB stall out these Trick Room turns? This Chiyu is still a very big threat because I think I don't know if Iron Hands will outspeed the Chiyu Undertale. It probably will. But with the Intimidate, it's not going to KO it. So now you have to make a decision. Do you maybe double into the Chiyu and try and catch and protect on the Fluttermane? Do you maybe think your opponent reads that and attacks with the Fluttermane, and then you try and go after the Fluttermane because you think they're going to protect the Chiyu?
Yeah.
So a Pokemon advantage and a positional advantage here for Gem, but potentially a correct call from NJB here could bring this back.
Yeah, it's one of those positions where you're just able to now the protecting game can begin, like where you just have to position yourself really well. Because as you mentioned, I don't know if Iron Hands is gonna be faster. That's one of the things where the people are sometimes running minus speed, but now with Ting Loose, they want to be faster. So how fast is that thing really? So let's get into the turn. As,
Okay, do you see the protect from Fluttermane yet?
Yeah. Ironhead correctly called out there. Wild Charge, not enough to KO the Chiyu, but now the Chiyu is able to go for a Heat Wave. KOs
Corviknight lives!
But the Corviknight. See, that's what I mean. Every time I see someone else play Corviknight, somehow their Corviknight lives everything.
One thing that is really interesting to note there is that Gem did not go for a Drain Punch. And you might think, oh, why not go for the super effective damage? But based on how much damage that Wild Charge did to Chiyu, Drain Punch wouldn't have killed.
Yeah.
And Drain Punch risks, as weird as this seems, Drain Punch risks the Iron Hands surviving. Whereas in this situation, Gem just wants a free switch into Garchomp. So Gem knows if you want to take out the Corviknight, you have to go for a Heat Wave here on this Chiyu. Yeah. So you have to then take out the Iron, or risk taking out the Iron Hands unless you miss, in order to do that. And so I'm going to Wild Charge here to guarantee the Iron Hands goes down, so I can bring in my Garchomp, and now I can just clean up with Earthquake.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, Tailwind is up. 2 more turns. Iron Head from Corviknight and Earthquake does seem to cover both of these Pokemon right now. So let's get into that turn.
I was going to say, can Fluttermane get the triple protect, but they don't even go for it. And that is going to clean it up. Yeah, the Earthquake and Iron Head. So it's kind of what I identified at the start of the game. This Corviknight Garchomp pairing. If you get that in position with Tailwind up, there's not much that can sit in front of that. So a very, very well played end game from Gem. Got a lot of momentum early game, capitalized on it really well. And again, that Wild Charge play was very, very smart, just to guarantee even better positioning in that end game.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those extra levels of thinking where you're just like that. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's impressive. We gotta recognize it. Well played, extremely. Gotta mention it's. And the Corviknight switch was also really good, like such a good switch in as well. Just being able to put up that Tailwind in that position where you have dealt enough damage with your Iron Hands that you're just able to, well, you've already dealt with the Gyarados and you pretty much dealt with the King Gambit as well. So like if the Garchomp is still in the back, being able to try to both the Fluttermane and the Chiyu, you're golden, right?
Yeah, and again, it's the cognizance to switch out your +2 Garchomp there, because I think that's a good example of a couple of things that newer players often do is they will not switch out Pokemon they've boosted because they're like, I need to keep my boosts. And also they will always just click the button that is super effective without thinking about what else is going on around them. So that's a really good example of a couple of plays that newer players often wouldn't think of. And I think Gem is actually, if I recall correctly, a relatively new player to VGC. So that's a really good level of kind of game awareness and kind of board comprehension from Gem.
Yeah, excellently played. So let's see what are going to be the adaptations in Game 2 here. NJB might be bringing something completely else, as we do have the Among Us this time around with the Fluttermane being able to redirect any possible moves there, and also being able to better deal with the lead of Garchomp and the Iron Hands. As we have a lot of things happening. We have Terra Fire on the Garchomp. We have Shadow Ball.
We're just going.
Earthquake on the Fluttermane.
Earthquake.
Surviving. Among Us also surviving.
Braver comes out.
Braver going down, and Among Us is down.
Cool. Right, good time one.
That was third one. So let's talk about that. So Among Us going down immediately was quite is a very good play, of course, for Gem there, and just going now for the instant Terra Fire, making sure that Dazzling wouldn't KO or Moonblast there. But then again, NJB trying to predict that, going for the Shadow Ball there. So a lot of things happening there.
Yeah, so I think that one, interestingly, I do like the Amoonguss switch up there because, like you said, that really threatens the Iron Hands Garchomp lead. Neither of us can really hurt it that much. But we see the adaptation from Gem bringing the Corviknight Garchomp. But the Amoonguss is still very threatening there because this Garchomp, we've seen to clear around, but obviously it's not going to be like Lumberry or anything. It really doesn't want to go to sleep here, which means that if you want to clear out the Amoonguss, you have to sacrifice your Tailwind. So now potentially if there is a Chi-Yu in the back, for example, which is what I'm expecting here, this is now a very, very strong offensive position for NJB because they can lock down the Garchomp with Shadow Ball and then just click Heat Wave.
Yeah, that's it. It's now better. Might be a good position for NJB. You're absolutely right. Let's get into turn 2. See what they are switching in there. As leftovers recovery a little bit. As it is the Chi, as you mentioned. So yeah, being in this position, Shadow Ball indeed a lockdown onto that Garchomp. Garchomp going down, meaning single target. Overheat miss. No.
Oh, Chi-Yu is awful. Chi-Yu is such a bad Pokemon.
No. That is terrible. Oh, that's super unfortunate. It's one of those things where overheat is such a powerful move when you hit it, you know. Oh my god.
Yeah, well, I mean, the other option is Heat Wave, which is exactly the same thing. So
it's oof. Like not wanting to risk any sort of shenanigans with Connagh possibly surviving their single target Heat Wave, just going for that maximum damage output. But yeah,
I think it's also the risk that if the Garchomp goes for Protect there, for example, it's now not a single target Heat Wave. It's a spread Heat Wave, which Corviknight could survive. So I think the overheat there was to cover for a potential Protect on Garchomp, which sounds very odd. You overheat the Corviknight to make sure that it kills if Garchomp protects.
Yeah.
But that just, again, I think the play there from NJB was trying to guarantee that the Tailwind doesn't go up, identifying that Tailwind is the biggest threat, I think, that that Gem has here. But sometimes when you click 90% accurate moves, you will miss. In fact, about 10% of the time, you will miss. So
yeah, the 1% can always happen, unfortunately, as the Gyarados is now in that Tailwind, has that nice water typing, and Iron Head will KO this Fluttermane, and Waterfall will do quite a bit to Chi, maybe not KOing it just yet, but it is still a lot of damage that you could have prevented without missing, of course. So Chi, this one's on you, man.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting now that Tailwind's up, there's a lot of flinch chances on Gem's side of the field. That's not something you can completely overlook, because Ironhead's got a 30% flinch chance, Waterfall's 20. Even if you're not picking up KOs here, this is still a dangerous position because there's a risk that NJB just doesn't move.
That's a terrifying thing to note, really. Where you're already put in a position where you missed the overheat, and now suddenly, oh no, I can get flinched. So let's see how this turn goes. I assume a switch to the Iron Hands. Yeah, Iron Hands seeming to be a good Pokemon to switch in.
What Sash on Chi-Yu, okay.
Oh, okay.
And the Iron Head is Chi-Yu, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I was thinking about that because the Fluttermane's not actually that threatening in this ball position here, and it's being pinned by the Corviknight. So I think that play, it's not like obvious, but it's not a hugely risky read because if you get that wrong, there's not a huge amount that Fluttermane can do there. I think the biggest risk there is if, for example, NJB switches the Flutter into Iron Hands and protects the Chi-Yu. Now suddenly there's that fake out pressure on the board that you need to contend with. But yeah, good call from
pressure. But yeah, they can both just go for the Fluttermane. That's the issue because it's this low right now.
Yeah.
Where you so I think a protect might be better from the Fluttermane. I guess dog tries to double protect is what I would probably do, and Iron Hands just deal with one Pokemon at least. So
that's when I think you do just need a double protect with Fluttermane here because there's no risk in just throwing all your resources at Flutter in this situation. I think even if you protect Flutter and KO the Gyarados, you're still going to need a double protect on Fluttermane. So now kind of becomes a case of does Gem want to risk playing around that double protect? Does Gem say, okay, I think NJB is going to go for the double protect play here because it's their best out if I just hit their Fluttermane?
Yeah.
And if they do that, do I want to change up my play or do I want to just bank on them not getting it? So there's still a lot of probability at play here. Plus also there's still the flinch chances on Iron Hands. There's a lot that can go in a lot of different directions.
All right, let's see what happens in the next turn. 2 more Tailwind turns survive. Your mission, survive. Floodbane going for the protect as we have the taunt coming out from Garrus into Menace. Ironhead into the protected Floodbane as a Thunder Punch coming out, not KOing the Corviknight because of course not. But doing quite a bit of damage as the double protect does come out from the Floodbane right now. Waterfall
And here
into
come
the
flinch
Iron
chances.
Hands. Is it flinching? No flinch, Thunder Punch going in.
Ooh.
Wow, okay.
And
That
now it's
double protect
interesting.
actually- yeah.
Yeah.
That
So
double
there was
protect
the
actually
there was
really
the double
clutch.
protect play. There was the double protect, and no flinch. But this Fluttermane, I don't know if it has enough here because the Iron Hands. Well, actually, if there'd been a flinch or no double protect there, I think it's kind of game over. But
Yeah.
there's a chance to bring this back now because Fluttermane can just take out the Corviknight. It really depends on what Gem's last Pokemon is. Because Fluttermane, like Iron Hands, is slow enough that whatever is coming in here will be able to take out the Fluttermane. So if it's an opposing Fluttermane, for example, then you're in a slightly tricky situation because you can just take out the it comes down to Fluttermane speeds. But then if it's something like an Iron Hands or Serena, then it suddenly becomes a lot more doable, I think.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see what the last Pokemon is that Gem brought. It is the Iron Hands, so you have to play around this. Shadow Ball just...
It doesn't even kill?
What? It didn't even kill? Oh,
and a
my
Roost.
God.
Oh, no. Tragic. Yeah,
That's-
well, I mean, that's what happens when you lose your photosynthesis boost on the Fluttermane. That's the benefit of forcing it to switch. Losing the boost. Corviknight lives and the Roost comes off.
Wow.
And that should, I think, be it. I think we just watch these turns play out.
Iron Hands as well, but like...
Yeah, I thought so based on the fact that because these players, we don't see the team sheets, the players see each other's team sheets. Given the taunt earlier on and the lack of fake out, I kind of presumed it was Swords Dance, but yeah,
and
that is
seemingly Neon Jazz Hands seems to be just the faster Iron Hands, being able to get the kill. Well played. Wow.
Yeah, a very weird game. So I mean, we I find it interesting here. We see in the chat, which you guys can't see on stream, but in the showdown chat, Jem says sorry about the miss, but doesn't address the fact that NJB also got a double protect and didn't get flinched at all. So it was kind of a bit back and forth, and that's the thing.
You always need there's always luck involved, like it was still possible.
That's the thing, like you have to know when you click a move that is 90% accurate that you're going to miss 10% of the time, and at the same time, if you're Gem in that situation, you can play around that. You can say, okay, if I get KO'd by if an overheat lands on anything I switch in on that slot, it's dead and I lose the game. My opponent has to miss, and I have to. And if they miss, I win, and if they don't miss, then I lose. But sometimes that 10% chance is the best chance you have of winning.
Yeah, exactly. So well played. Anyway, but that's the thing with Pokemon. There's always luck involved, and it goes from back to forth. Because they missed the overheat, you had to go for the double protect. They got the double protect, which is also on its own very impressive. So in that regard, it was still well played by both of them. They played their outs. They played to their best of their abilities, and they played to what could provide them the win.
Yeah, well, I think that's also an issue that a lot of newer players have is they play with a mindset of, I'm going to click my move and it's going to hit, and then they get annoyed when 10% of their time their 90% accurate move doesn't connect. Sure, it sometimes feels bad to lose to that, and sometimes it even feels bad to win because of stuff like that.
Yeah,
but I've had games where I've gone, okay, my out here is I get outrageously lucky, and there was one match I played EUIC. And I will remember this endgame sequence for the rest of my life. It is burned into my brain. Where I heard earlier, this is game 3 in round 6 or something. And earlier on in that game, my Iron Bundle had been fully paralyzed 3 times in a row, which is really unfortunate because my opponent had a Gyarados and a 2 HP Baxcalibur on the field, and I would have KO'd both of them if I'd hit him with a freeze dry. But I didn't, and so I ended up in a position where I was very far behind. I had a paralyzed Arcanine with 20 HP left, and I had my Tinglu, which is at full health, and I was up against a Mungus that was at 75% or something, and their Gyarados, which was full health as well.
Yeah.
And I see the 3-minute timer come up on screen. It says, okay, 3 minutes until the match is over. At which point I realize I'm never KOing this Gyarados. Like, I've got a paralyzed Arcanine and a Tinglu that doesn't have anything other than like ground moves and Ruination. So I say to myself, okay, my win condition here is that I double protect with my paralyzed Arcanine. I wake up with my Tinglu, and I fissure the Amoonguss.
That's the winning play. That entire segment is the winning play.
That was the winning play. And like in that situation, it ended up working. I got the double protect. So the Gyarados ended up taking too many turns to KO my Arcanine. I woke up, I fissured the Amoonguss, and then timer ran out, and we both had a full health Pokemon, but my full health Pokemon was a Tinglu, so I had 408,000 HP left. And so I won that game on timer. But it's one of those ones where like you have to know when you have to play for luck, and you have to know like when that's your only win condition. And it's one of those things where like I got staggeringly lucky, but also you have to see the win condition first. So like, I don't know. I think it's true to an extent that luck can be a skill in this game. In that if you don't play for the luck, you don't get it.
No, exactly. Like a lot of times in the beginning of the game, you try to avoid like thinking of those luck percentages.
Yeah.
But like, there's a reason why people play Thunder Wave on Gyarados because in
longer games, you'll get glitches, you'll get paralysis. Like
it can still help you a lot. Like that luck, like you may not do damage that one turn, but like that Thunder Wave can come in very clutch from time to time.
So, I have won so many games against Dondozos from paralyzing them and then just flinching them forever whilst my partner does whatever it wants.
That's what we like to see. I don't like Dondozos, so that's perfect. I love to hear that.
Anyway, let's jump into our third and final game of today. We have got Char the Mimikyu versus Callum. And this is, if I quickly grab up my
cheat again, I've got a brain.
I need to grab my sheet so I can remember what's going on. This is I need to move everything out of the way. Hold on. Here we go. We have got the Sinnoh Shamans versus the Ballonly Butterfrees. So Char the Mimikyu versus Callum. Currently, the Sinnoh Shamans are 3-2 up in this match. A win guarantees them to get through to the playoffs. If they tie this week, so if Char loses, it comes down to games difference and other tiebreakers against the Galar Mining Society. So there is a lot riding on this match outside of just individual accolades. I think Callum is currently 3-2 overall, looking to go 4-2, stay positive. Much nicer record than 3-3. It just looks nicer on paper. And Char, I think, has had a very successful season, is currently 4-2. And looking to extend that. But Char is also playing to try and get his team into the playoffs, fighting to overtake the Galar Mining Society in that last playoff slot and stop them from getting playoffs without winning a week.
Yeah, man, sometimes a tie is powerful. As if we've learned anything from TCG, ties are very important in that regard. Like,
I used to play Magic the Gathering, and sometimes you get to a point in the day where you're like, I'm at 6-1, 7-0, whatever. I want to get food. ID, done.
Come on, man. Just you don't want to play. I don't want to play. Just as we have both of the teams on the screen, we have from Daisy Chainsaw, which is good question.
I'm pretty sure it's Char on our left, and Callum on our right.
Yes. All right. So Char has the Iron Hands, Tinglu, Gyarados, Chiyu, Fluttermane, and the Amoonguss. The standard New Balance that we have seen time and time again. But it's one of those teams
so disappointed with it.
It's just that good.
It works, yeah. I mean, I ran it in the last 2 tournaments I played, so I can't complain.
Yeah,
the absolute lack of spice in the final week here is a little bit disappointing. We saw a Serena and a Corviknight on Gem's team, but that was about it. It's all been...
Well done, Gem. So, you've brought the spice. You're the spice bringer of the week. You've done it.
You're the spiciest with Corviknight Garchomp.
You did it. And on the opposing end, we have the Arcanine, the Iron Bundle, Dragonite, Chimpao, the Classic, of course, Fluttermane, and then King Gambit. So
It's
yeah,
just
as I
I'm
mentioned,
just seeing in my head the Squidward daring today, aren't we meme?
yeah. Oh, I'll have a Chi-Yu Fluttermane balance. Oh, there are we.
I'll have Chen Pao Dragonite Hyper Offense, please.
Oh my god. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, so let's talk about the teams. So we've seen these kind of teams do get out quite a bit a lot. Where the balanced teams like Chiyu has been always like being the one thing to like really wall break. But now you're in a position where you have to go against all of these offensive threats. So I feel I feel like Chiyu is not one of those Pokemon you preferably like to bring. It can be like a nice surprise to, or like even
Hmm.
help your own Fluttermane. But like, I don't think it's like one of those best Pokemon to bring personally.
I think it depends on the sex. If it like on these teams, you often see like leftovers nasty plot, which
Yeah,
still is threatening. Because against a team like this, yes, okay, you've got no walls to break with your wall breaker, but it
yeah,
also the flip side of that is you don't really need a nasty plot to deal
that's
kind of
true.
60-70% of a lot of these Pokemon. So the Chew I think could still be very dangerous. Like it can tank a hit from a Fluttermane. It's got super effective hits into Chen Pao and into King Gambit. It's doing probably about half to an Arcanine, I'd guess. I think
Yeah, and
depending on
neutral
the
damage is still
yeah
nice to have.
yeah
Yeah,
depending on the Iron Bundle build as well. I think it can also one shot, especially if it's taking a little bit of chip, for example, from like a fake out from Iron Hands or whatever.
yeah,
So it could be a threat. I agree that maybe it's not something you want to bring every game. It could be a mix up. But worth
yeah.
noting as well, like especially with the Terra Water here, there's also not that much that can actually threaten it back.
That's also
Chiyu,
true.
when you invest in it, surprisingly bulky. And outside of that Iron Bundle, like okay, maybe you've got Sacred Sword on Chen Pao, but they don't all run that. Maybe you've got a coverage move on Dragonite, but there's not a huge amount that can actually hit the Chiyu that hard. So it is still very threatening, I think.
Yeah, you're absolutely right in that regard. What I think what will happen. I'm just guesstimating here now. But I truly believe that like Iron Hands is one of those Pokemon that is definitely going to be brought because it just does so much. Like
Oh
Arcanine,
yeah.
yes, you have with Intimidate, but like Wild Charge and Drain Punch, that's really most of the time all you need from time to time, where you're just able to break down these teams quite a bit, and then put an Amoonguss next to it. Make sure that your Iron Hands keep surviving or even redirecting moves. It's just one of
Hmm.
those things where it's just two
Well,
bulky
if it's
mons that you
yeah,
can't really break through.
if it's Sword Stance Iron Hands as well here, then there's a lot of setup
Oh
potential
yeah,
from Char's side. So I think even though this team from Mythical Meteor from Caleb is not that bulky, I still think these setup Pokemon could be dangerous even without setting up. Or you get one nasty plot off, or one sword stance off, and there is nothing on this team that's surviving that hit.
I just realized
Um,
how Arcanine could be very threatening. Actually,
oh, I think yeah, no, Arcanine definitely comes to this game.
yeah,
Absolutely, it's going to be safety goggles
I forgot
Arcanine,
about
and
Howl. I
it
forgot about the
definitely.
Howl for a second. Like,
Oh, it could be Howl actually. That's a good point. Yeah, Howl next to
yeah,
King Gambit Chenpao. Oh, and Dragonite.
yeah,
Yeah, no, that's a good
yeah.
call
Like,
actually.
there's a lot of things you can Howl here. And I'm like, wait a
That's
minute, this
true.
Arcanine kind of a threat now.
Oh, I was just thinking defensively. I was like, okay, Will-O-Wisp, Will-O-Wisp, Will-O-Wisp,
Oh yeah, yeah, also that
Extreme
definitely.
Speed, Flare Blitz, Flare Blitz. Like,
Yeah. No,
um,
yeah, just let's just get into it. Let's see what
yeah.
this match brings us. The final week here, uh, as the players have started with a Tinglu on the one end, together with the Iron Hands. Daring, are
Seen
we?
this lead
Sorry,
before. Yeah.
I can't get it out of my mouth. This Squidward, as we have Team Power and King Gambit on the other hand,
Yeah,
where
this
Iron Hands just looking great, really.
yeah, Iron Hands is immediately very, very threatening. The one thing is, if this is Assault Vest Tinglu, for example, there's a risk that if it doesn't terastallize, it's going to be taking a lot of hits.
Yeah.
Like an Ice Spinner Iron Head would or Low Kick if King Gambit is running Low Kick would probably pick that up. And you can maybe get around that by trying to switch, but I don't know what you switch into on Ice Spinner Iron Head here because Chiyu's not going to enjoy it. I mean, actually, fair Chiyu could switch in here, but then it's getting threatened by maybe a Sacred Sword. Gyarados doesn't want to switch in and give the King Gambit that Defiant boost. And then Amoonguss does not want to take an Ice Spinner. So that slot's potentially under pressure, but I think the Iron Hands here is just putting on so much pressure itself that this is definitely a favorable lead for Char.
Yeah, the Iron Hand's just being able to Dream Punch really any target. So maybe an early Terra will happen, or a switch here just to make sure that none of these Pokemon go down as we get into the first turn. Oh yeah, Vessel of Ruin, can't forget that.
Yeah. Believe me, you can. I've done it many times.
Flying Terra Blast actually coming out, doing a decent amount of damage against his Iron Hands. Ruination into the King Gambit, just making sure that goes down a bit. And the Protect, well done there with the Chimpao. And now you have chipped that
King Gambit.
Iron Hands. Wow,
Oh, Iron
could
Hands,
not.
yeah.
Wow, could not come out for some reason.
Things like you've used your Terastallization to deal a third to Iron Hands here, which feels kind of risky to me. Like, that's a lot of commitment just to get a bit of chip damage. And Iron Hands is very, very threatening, and you do need to deal with it. But there's always a risk with, especially with hyper offensive teams. If you commit too much resource to dealing with one threat, you leave yourself really out of position. And such a hyper offensive team like the one that Callum is using, once you're out of position, it's really hard to claw your way back in. Obviously, the flip side is true. Once you get into a good position, it's very hard for your opponent to stop you. But if you let your opponent get that early positioning, it can really snowball. So it'll be interesting to see how these next couple of turns are going to play out. We've been spoiled a little bit. We're going to see the Terrifier on the Iron Hands here. I'm assuming it's trying to take an Ice Spinner.
I just see red. So, Ice Spinner, coming out. And the Iron Hand just doubling up onto the Tinglu as Dream Punch, just making sure that this Iron Hands is just back to full health, really.
Now, that's a weird play from Callum. You committed so much resource to try and chip down the Iron Hands early game, and then just let it get away with War Crimes on turn 2. Feels very strange to me. Like, it feels like you kind of almost wasted the amount of resource you put into turn 1 there, because now Iron Hands is back up to full health. You've lost your Chen Pao, which is really, really reducing your damage output now from all your physical threats. King Gambit is probably going to go down to a Thunder Punch or a Wild Charge, whatever this Iron Hands is carrying. And again, all that now for 3% damage on the Iron Hands and not quite killing a Tinglu.
Yeah, I don't feel like this was worth it. Like, all of that for a little bit of blood, like...
Yeah.
Where it's just... because I don't know if the Terra was also really needed onto the Iron Hands itself, but I get it.
I think the worry there was the like Ice Spinner Terra Blast double up would take it out.
Did we? I did 32, I believe. Yeah, might be.
Yeah, I think with the Ice Spinner it probably would be. We also saw that the King Gambit was faster.
Well, yeah, maybe predicting a Protect or a switch out from the Iron Hands in that regard, but just the...
Yeah. I mean, it makes some sense, I think, in a situation like this where you are behind and you're playing the hyper-offensive team, sometimes you do need to make a big read just to try and get yourself back in the game.
Yeah.
Because if Iron Hands does go for a switch there and you... because Iron Hands is the big threat, you think, okay, my opponent wants to conserve this. If I can get a bunch of damage down this Tinglu, which otherwise I'm going to struggle to break through, then maybe it's worthwhile. But... as it stands, it's a lot of resource being put in by Callum for not a lot of payoff, I think. Very much. This is in Char's hands at the moment.
Yeah, let's take a look how Callum deals with this now. As it is Iron Bundle this time around.
So threatening the Hydro Hump now on the...
on the Iron Hands?
Iron Hands, that's the one I was going for.
You forget, right? And the
I was going to say Hariyama.
Double up. Yeah, the Hariyama, it's so easy to go for that. Stomping Tantrum into Iron Bundle, not doing a lot of damage, so... suddenly losing your Iron Hands, of course, in that quick turn there with the Hydro Pump plus Assurance there.
See, this is a weird spot now because I think Chiyu's in a position where it can just pick up either of these Pokemon with a Dark Pulse, but I don't think it can pick up either of them with a Heat Wave. So you can maybe bank on landing a Hydro Pump and then that killing that plus Sucker Punch killing the Chiyu through the Tinglu's Vessel of Ruin.
Yeah.
But if you miss your Hydro Pump or that doesn't KO and you lose your Iron Bundle, then suddenly you're back to being in a really terrible spot here. So there are ways back in for Callum. I think that last turn definitely gives him a lot more momentum. But it's still going to be tricky to deal with his Chiyu, I think, in this situation.
Yeah. honestly, I don't really have a lot to say about this turn. So let's see what how you're gonna get it through this, because it's a weird position where the Iron Bundle is just able to hide
Do
from,
you see
as
the
we do
sucker
see the
punch?
sucker punch, as you mentioned.
Hydro
Oh,
misses. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, the
that's going to
classic.
happen.
That's the classic. A heat
And
wave.
Heatwave does pick up the Iron Bundle, even with the
Wow.
Tinglu on the field. I'm surprised by that.
Yeah,
And
me
Stone
too.
Edge connects.
Honestly, I was surprised about the heat wave killing there, mainly.
Yeah.
The hydro pump missing it was something like, it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I was, it's probably gonna happen,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And now it is Fluttermane versus the world.
Hey, we've seen that. We've seen Fluttermane kick ass before, I believe.
Yeah.
We've seen
Fluttermane.
Heatwave miss. Oh,
We have.
not this time.
I wonder if this is a weird call. I wonder if this is Specs Chiyu. Because that did a lot of
That
damage
did
to
a
a
lot,
Fluttermane.
right? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing where I was like,
And
that
if you're
did-
not Specs, surely you click Dark Pulse there. Like, we were both really surprised by the Iron Bundle going down to the Heat Wave.
That is true.
And
That is actually, yeah.
there is no reason to not go for a Dark Pulse in that situation over a Heat Wave. So I'm pretty certain, like, if we're playing close team sheets and I am Callum, I'm saying I'm writing down that is choice Specs on my little notebook.
Because that feels like a lot of damage that it was able to output there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is interesting. That really changes the dynamic of how this team works, knowing it's Specs Chiyu. Because most of these Chiyu are running like very, very bulky. And this is what you were saying, like that setup is not necessarily as effective because it's harder to set up. And there's no walls to break. But now that we know it's Specs, suddenly we're in a situation where this is kind of what I was saying. I think I said like, oh, you don't need
to break.
You don't need the boost to KO things. That's very true now. That Heat Wave is taking out at least 3 of these Pokemon on the opposing team in one shot.
Yeah, so different position, like completely different insight now how to deal with this. Let's see how Callum deals now with this Iron Hands and this thing Luli possibly again turn 1. Maybe adapting here to that, because that felt like a really good lead from Charter's side, as it is King Gambit and Iron Bundle this time around.
Also, we didn't see Arcanine last game, did we?
Oh no, we didn't. No, we didn't.
Which I'm very, very surprised by. Because it was a lot of physical Pokemon kind of running away with that game. And also Arcanine can, to an extent, especially if we know it's Specs Chiyu and it's going to lock itself into a fire move, for example, Arcanine can sit in front of that relatively comfortably. So I'd be very surprised to not see Arcanine come from Callum in this game. This lead, we see Iron Bundle, King Gambit. But again, this lead is so weak to Iron Hands.
Yeah,
because now there's no reason
really putting in work right now.
There's no reason for Iron Hands to Terastallize here. Like Hydro Pump is not doing much next to a Tinglu. It resists both the King Gambit stabs. There's got to be something in the back to do with this Iron Hands. Like surely you'd expect an Arcanine to come in here, because otherwise Callum is just really, really giving this Iron Hands a lot of room to work with.
Yeah, I agree there. So let's see if this Arcanine is going to come in, as we have the Iron Bundle going with its Quark Drive. So speed boost. And Terra flying again with the King Gambit. No switching to no Arcanine. Maybe not here. Terra Blast coming out 27% again. Wild Charge just going for that because, like, yeah, why not? Like you already saw him go for it once. Stomach Tantrum into that King Gambit in case it didn't. Very well played there. Just trying to make sure, because that Iron Bundle was bound to probably protect, because it was in not that good of a position. It could Hydro Pump, but it's a Tinglu. It will survive. And it will not do a lot to the Iron Hands either. So you're just in a position where, you have to kind of protect.
Strangely though, I feel like making that read from Char might actually come back to bite him a little bit, because we know this King Gambit's faster than Iron Hands. Yeah. So now there's a chance that like Hydro Pump plus Terra Blast will pick up. I don't think it will, but like maybe if there's a crit or something, that's a way for Callum to get back into this game. I think maybe you didn't need to commit to that, because King Gambit's not threatening anything, is the thing here. Yeah. I think you're content to leave that on the field. You could potentially go for Drain Punch into Iron Bundle and just Ruination the King Gambit, for example, similar to last time, and say like, okay, if it Terras, I'm not taking any recoil damage from this. So you're going to deal 27% to me. I'm not at risk of either of these two Pokemon next turn. So we'll see how that plays out. I still don't think this is going to be in range, because Iron Bundle is not the strongest Pokemon in terms of raw damage output.
Yeah.
If there's like an Arcanine in back here, then it could get a little bit interesting.
Yeah. We have the Iron Hands just going for a protect here. Hydro Pump coming out into that Tinglu, and yeah, it's a Tinglu, man. And just doubling up into that. Very well played in that regard. And the Tinglu flinching. So absolute free turn there for Callum.
Just a lot of free damage on the Tinglu. And that's kind of what I was saying in game one. Sometimes if you're in this situation and you're playing the hyper-offensive team, you do need to make an aggressive read. Like in this situation, again, similar to game one, we saw the Iron Hands was under a lot of threat. Like potentially it's being threatened with a KO here. And last time, I believe Chargers went very aggressive with the Iron Hands. And so I think Callum here probably going, okay, I made that mistake game one of letting the Iron Hands get away with a bit too much. So I think you're going to play defensive with it again. And I think if you are Char in this situation, I honestly don't think you have any reason to protect your Iron Hands there. Because I'm pretty sure, based on how much damage everything's doing here, you're not dead to a double up, even if Hydro Pump connects. I think with the Vessel of Ruin and with everything else going on.
I do agree, because like probably wanting to try and go for a safe play, keeping its Iron Hands healthy and maybe killing the Kingambit, but then a new Pokemon might come in and that really might threaten your Iron Hands instead of the Kingambit, because the Kingambit's not really threatening your Iron Hands all that much. So
no, well, neither is the Iron Bundle. So I think you're relatively safe there to go for a Drain Punch into the Iron Bundle, just get all your health back on Iron Hands and say, look, okay, I'm going to reset, I'm at full health, this threat is not going anywhere. Whereas now the Iron Hands is still under a lot of threat. And I think, again, it will still live this turn, so you can potentially go for an attack into the Iron Bundle, but the difference now is there is Protect in play again on the Iron Bundle. So if Kingambit goes for a Terra Blast into the Iron Hands here, it can't get much health back with Drain Punch, because you're not going to KO the Kingambit with a Drain Punch here. And so it can't then, if Iron Bundle protects, get all that health back.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that turn plays out in turn 3 as the Hydro Pump comes out and dodged with the Terra Blast as well. Dodged both, and Dream Punch just coming out into the Iron Bundle, surviving on 1 HP. Impressive there, to say the least. Getting its HP back to 57%. And Heavy Slam also barely missing the KO on Kingambit there.
Yeah, one thing to note here, which I think is kind of funny, not particularly relevant, is that the Iron Hands has ended up on exactly the same amount of HP as it started the turn on.
Oh my god, it did!
That's what I mean. Though, like, even if that Hydro Pump connects, I don't think Hydro Pump next to a Tinglu is dealing 28% to an Iron Hands. So I don't know. I feel like maybe Char could have afforded to be a little bit more aggressive the previous turn. It's ended up working out quite well. That Hydro Pump miss is very nice. Again, if you're Callum there, you can have a complaint. You press Hydro Pump, it's going to miss sometimes. That's just how it goes. But now this is a pretty much guaranteed KO on something for Callum. But it's just a case now of identifying what. Sorry, for Char even. But I think Char's play now is identifying what he has in the back end that he needs to clear the field for. So, for example, if he's got the Fluttermane back end, he's going to want to clear out the Iron Bundle so it gets rid of the speed control. If he's got Gyarados in the back end, he might want to clear out the Kingambit so he doesn't give it Defiant Boost and threaten. Suddenly it starts threatening Sucker Punches, right?
Yeah, exactly. Really having to choose now. It's depending on like what they have in the back. So let's see what the next turn will bring out. What Pokemon will go down here? Hydro Pump going into
that actually would have been enough damage.
Okay. Whoa.
Okay, well we were both completely incorrect the entire time.
Yep, exactly. Like, damn, I did not expect that to do that much. As Heavy Slam will kill the Iron Bundle there, and the Fluttermane is now able to come in there. Now, I just didn't expect the Hydro Pump to do that much, honestly.
Neither. This is a very weird position now, actually. Things like, after all that's said and done, the Kingambit's on 3 HP, and also the Terrestrialization is gone from Callum's side, which is very much worth noting. So this Chien-Pao can't stop itself from being put down to its sash by like a Dazzling Gleam. So if there's maybe a Terra Fairy on this Fluttermane, we could see Dazzling Gleam and switch the Tinglu into Gyarados if that's in the back, for example.
Yeah.
Although I imagine it's probably Chiyu. But you can just tank the hit with, well, depending on how bulky the Flutterman is, potentially tank 2 hits and just launch a Dazzling Gleam here. So a lot of threat now from Char's side. And like I said, clearing out that Iron Bundle just means that the speed control is now in Char's favor.
Yeah. No, it's exactly as you mentioned. So let's see, let's see what the decision making here goes for. We have the Protosynthesis, so the
speed boost. That's big here because it means you naturally outspeed the
Okay.
Genpao.
Yeah, Secret Sword coming out does kill that Tinglu there. So this Fluttermane doing more damage now, but opposing Fluttermane is there.
Everything's doing damage. Although,
Oh.
interestingly there, no Sucker Punch coming out from the King Gambit, I guess. And again, I think it feels like Callum was trying there to make a really aggressive read and say, like, okay, if they just go for the obvious play of Dazzling Gleam and Heavy Slam, for example, then I go down to my Fluttermane if I don't pick up the kill on their Fluttermane, which obviously you wouldn't because of the speed boost.
Yeah.
So I have to hope that my opponent is going to make a mistake. And sometimes that is something you have to identify in games like this. You have to identify my win condition is my opponent makes a mistake here and gives me an out. And you have to play to the out that you have. Because if you go for like Sucker Punch Ice Spinner there, you will lose your Genpao. Your Genpao. You'll lose your King Gambit to the Dazzling Gleam.
Yeah.
You might pick up the Fluttermane. You might not. It depends on spreads and stuff. But then the Heavy Slam takes out your Genpao, and now you're fighting a 2v1 with your backhand Fluttermane. Which against Specs Chiyu, I don't think you ever win. So in that situation, I think Callum goes, okay, if my opponent does the sensible play and just presses the funny spread move button, then I lose. So I have to hope my opponent makes the incorrect play, goes for a protected. If my opponent makes that incorrect play, the way I then win there is to take out the slot next to it and then win with the momentum I have. So a lot of the time, it's a case of like identifying how your opponent can lose. And you don't always want to play around your opponent's best play because sometimes your opponent's best play will just beat you regardless.
No, yeah, exactly. Sometimes you have to like you have to expect your opponent to make the wrong play from time to time because they don't have all the information yet, like your spreads and such. And apparently the Fluttermane on Char's side had substitute, so risking for Sucker Punches.
That really changes things. Yeah. Okay.
So let's see how the next turn 6 goes with the Terra Fairy now. We have the Sucker Punch coming out now.
That did so much still.
That did a lot, yeah. I'm actually impressed there. And now Fluttermane still the only one surviving, Moonblasting into that Chiyu, not KOing it, but the Dark Pulse coming out and killing that Fluttermane.
So that is going to be a victory for Char the Mimikyu. And that is going to be a victory for the Sinnoh Shamans, putting them at 4-2 here over this week, which will guarantee them their playoff place. No need for tiebreakers.
Nice.
So, congratulations to Char and to the Sinnoh Shamans. Wrapping it up in the final week. Came down to the wire, but they pulled through and they are through to the playoffs.
Yeah, congratulations to everyone that played. I hope you all enjoyed yourself. Like this was quite spectacular. Like these replays might not have a lot of a lot of things on the line here, but it was still very fun to watch. Definitely, we have seen quite a few fun things, overheat misses and such happen because this is Pokemon. It's always fun. Like it always tends to be kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the standard of this is just really high. Like, I don't think there were any plays today where I was looking at what happened. Apart from maybe the one close combat into a Dragonite, there weren't any plays where I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, I think everyone was playing to a really high standard. I think in every single set we identified from both players areas where they'd made really good kind of assessments of board position. They'd made smart plays that maybe newer players wouldn't think of. So yeah, I think, and I only cast one other week of this so far, but again, that week as well, there was a lot of a lot of very impressive play from all players. So I think the standard has just been really, really enjoyable to watch. Like you said, even if there's not necessarily much at stake in the grand scheme of things,
Yeah,
it's just been enjoyable to watch and to cast over.
exactly.
So thank you to everyone who's played. Congratulations to everyone who has made it through to playoffs. That is the Paldea Palafins and Spikemouth Spiritombs as the top two in that order, getting their round one buys in playoff. And then the remaining four are the Twin Leaf Typhlosions, the Ballandy Butterfrees, the Postwick Patcakes, and the Sinnoh Shamans at the last minute jumping over the Galar Mining Society to steal that last playoff place.
Yeah, well played. Honestly, it was fun doing this. I really enjoyed this as well. So it's now break week, right? If I'm correct.
Yes, there is a break week before the first week
Okay.
of
So
playoffs.
that's gonna be a week of just relaxing, or maybe the exactly the opposite of intense preparation for what is to come, the top cut. But thank you all very much for watching. I enjoyed this as well. I
Yeah, good
don't
fun.
I don't think we have to say anything specifically anymore.
I think we should probably plug the UKITT Twitter, which is at
Yes.
UKIT_VGC, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to keep up with all of the playoff matches, we've got 4 semi-finals. We've got a break week, then we've got our 2 semi-finals. The week after that, we've got our 2 semi-finals. Then after that, wait, sorry, 2 quarterfinals and then 2 semi-finals. Sorry, I got confused there. It sounds weird to say 2 quarterfinals,
Yeah.
but there's 2 buys. So 2 quarterfinals, 2 semi-finals, and then we will have our finals on the week of the 10th to the 16th of July. And hopefully some of us will be doing a live in-person stream casting some of the finals matches and the third place playoff. So a break week and then 2 matches every week for the next 3 weeks after that.
So it's at UKIT_VGC on Twitter, and there will be week 6 and week 7 usage stats on Twitter as well, apparently this week.
So if you want to see what people have been bringing to UKIT, sometimes you do see some weird stuff in there. I always find it very funny looking at those stats and being like, yeah, okay, 408 Fluttermanes and 200 Chiyus, and then one Slitherwing, and someone somewhere brought
Sarina,
like Houndstone. Yeah, like
no, look at it's always fun to see these kind of competitions. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I'm Shmon, and of course, join with me is Bwenty, and we'll see you the next time as well. Well, not us specifically, but we'll see you.
Someone will be here.
Yeah,
next
someone
time.
will be here. Another great caster to tell you all about this, and we'll happily see you then as well.
All right, see you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.